Hey everyone, this is Cindy at I Am the Open Door or an Open Door. And according to I say this a lot, it's May 10th, 2025, here on the East Coast of the United States. It's 11:30 a.m. I don't have a clue where it is, what time it is where you are. This is part of the 3 weeks that I've always called. This is how we can tell that time is part of the illusion space. This we changed our clocks this weekend. They don't change their clocks until March 30th in Europe. And in parts of the country, they don't change their clocks at all. So those of us who hold space for global communities um, just get the opportunity to see how illusory linear time and the clock time can really be. Really glad to see you all here. And that includes you, Andrew. It's nice to have you back. You were missed. Um, and thank you for letting me know why you weren't here, because that part of the egoic mind like wonders. So thank you for quieting that. So there's very specific lines that I sent in the email yesterday that we were going to talk about, or we were going to talk through today. My intention is to read these lines into the space and then play the song. David's been sending some of the writings from Carrie. I can't remember her last name for some reason.
Newcomer.
Newcomer, and I have a song of hers that I was going to play, and it's entitled "Not If Not Now When." Great, great title for a song, yeah. Um, and then I'll read this again. I have just a few things to say, um, mostly what I want or what I am inspired for is conversation or connection through how these words um, inform your experience of this moment. So here they are. It's the very end of chapter 5 in A Course in Miracles. Doesn't matter if you're in the blue book or the purple book. I must have decided wrongly because I am not at peace. I made the decision myself, but I can also decide otherwise. I will to decide otherwise because I want to be at peace. I do not feel guilty because the Holy Spirit will undo all the consequences of my wrong decision if I will let Him. I will to let Him by allowing Him to decide for God, for me. All right, Barbie, you got a job to do. Yeah. Here we go. I must have decided wrongly because I am not at peace. I made the decision myself, but I can also decide otherwise. I will to decide otherwise because I want to be at peace. I do not feel guilty because the Holy Spirit will undo all the consequences of my wrong decision if I will let Him. I will to let Him by allowing Him to decide for God, for me. So the first thing I want to say about these lines is just how teachings in general meet you where you are and they take you to the next step. So I can remember the first time I heard these words, and they were before I started working for the Teachers of God Foundation. I was in Living in Purpose, and Freedom Cartwright, before she was Freedom Cartwright, and Linda Leland, who eventually was the woman who recommended that Bill hire me, spoke these words, and my whole inside started to like shake. And somehow I couldn't believe that it was true, that there was a power, like I was so connected to the belief in linear time, the belief that what had been done to me 20 years ago, 30 years ago, had been done and there was no way out of it. I couldn't believe that all the bad decisions I ever made could just be undone with a decision. Like it blew me away, but not in a way that I disbelieved it, right? It flipped me out. And then over the years, and this is why I was laughing when Chuck came in the room, over the years, I continually I forgot the words over and over again. And then something would come into my space and say, you need those words, but then I couldn't figure out. And I can remember I went through this period where I was asking everybody. I remember just enough. Where are they? Where are they? Where are they? I was like asking Dove and others, couldn't find them in the book. And then I found them, and then I lost them, and then I found them. And then somehow it dawned that they were the last 5 lines at the end of chapter 5. And somehow I was able to remember that. So it's very interesting how the egoic mind that doesn't want you to take the next step somehow, how it pushes out some of these teachings. And then sometime this weekend, it just dropped. I didn't have to open the book this time. Just, it was something, whether it's for me or us or whatever, there was something about bringing this teaching forward. And then when I sat this morning, I realized they have a whole different meaning now for me anyway. And the question that arose for me, maybe Amy, this is very informed by the guides, by the way. The question that arose for me, which is a question that I could walk around with, was, who is your God? That was the question. It came out of nowhere. And somehow what followed as I sat with it, because I recognized that it wasn't a question that came from the intellectual mind, and it was not a question to be answered there. It was a pointing. So relative to these lines, relative to where we are, it was an invitation in any given moment that I am not feeling at peace. The question, who is your God, can come up, or where are you placing your faith in this moment is another way that it comes. Where am I placing my faith now? If I'm placing my faith in Brahman or the Tao, or still love that word God, consciousness, and if I am placing my faith in those words as the love, as the stillness, as the ground from which everything else arises, then that's love and that's life, and that will flow. And there's nothing that can overcome that. Right? And then the next line is, if I'm placing my faith in this moment in fear, and I can tell when I am, there's a contraction, there's a desire to defend and attack, and a feeling like something has to change so that I could be okay. And again, this is not an empowered feeling. This is a disempowered feeling, a cutoff feeling. So we're not talking about the actions Cindy takes in the world, right? It's not determining whether or not, like, Libby's been going to protests. It's not about going to a protest or not going to a protest. It's not about going to a town hall meeting or not going to a town hall meeting. It's about feeling empowered or disempowered. If in that moment I'm feeling disempowered, it means I'm cut off from life. It means I'm placing my faith in fear. But what is fear? Course in Miracles states fear is the absence of love. What is love? God. The teachings also state God is all there is. So where is fear? There's no answer to that question, by the way, unless I go to Joel Goldsmith, and then I laugh because the only place that fear, the world that's built on fear, exists, and the words that I always use these days, and it comes from Joel Goldsmith, is in the ocean that blocks the desert road, i.e. in the in the mirage or the illusion or the dream. That kind of using logic in that kind of way brings me back to center. God simply is. And I can place my attention back on that, and what was contracted can then open up and the energy flows through, and I can rest back into who is my God? Where do I place my attention? Relative to these lines, this is why it's so much fun for me. Linear time and I have a whole different relationship. And there's an understanding that history only exists in my current belief structure. So the moment I am willing to surrender that, it can be undone and something else can take its place. So that's what came up for me to share. And now I'm handing things over to whatever Andrew's going to share. It's nice to have you back, Andrew. And I trust your wife is feeling well. Oh,
She's feeling pretty good. I just put her on this passive motion machine just before the meeting. So she's going to be on that for an hour. She had her knee replaced, and she 3 weeks ago. She's doing okay. A little better every day. Thank you. It's great to be here. Great to see you all. And Cindy, it's going to be hard to follow what you said because you pretty much covered that perfectly. The only thing I would add is the paragraph right before this one says decisions cannot be difficult. This is obvious if you realize that you must already have made a decision not to be wholly joyous, if that is what you feel. So joyousness, and then it says you must have decided wrongly if you're not at peace. The Course tells us that joy, happiness, peace, love, atonement, they're all the same thing. So there can be some confusion about what it is that we're supposed to feel, and it's basically that inner peace that we're supposed to feel all the time. Things go on in the world all around us that affect emotions, affect what we have to do, how we respond. But if we can maintain that sense of inner peace, that's a big win. The thing is, we feel guilty. We must feel guilty if we don't feel inner peace all the time. I mean, that's an ego thing. And this chapter talks about using a higher court. So when we don't feel at peace and we're judging ourselves, we're feeling guilty about something we did in the past or many things. I know stuff comes up in my mind all the time. I have a lot of idle time. I'm retired and I think about the past. Some things I did in the past I'm not too proud of. Other things I am, but I seem to think about the bad ones more. We have to appeal to the higher court, which is the Holy Spirit, the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court always says you're guiltless. So that sums up, how we have to handle this. But you said it better than I did. I just
I
do it. Thank you.
love all the different words. There are some things that I'd like to say, and then I'll hand things over to David, if that's okay, David. And this again comes listening to the guides, which I've been doing a lot. They don't ever say anything that would disagree with the Course, which is so interesting. But they say it in a way that somehow drops differently here. And while I was listening to you, one of the things that they continually in the trilogy I just finished reading was called the Beyond the Known trilogy. And it helped me recognize that my intellect, what I know in the world that I see is, well, it's like the Google headset that we've talked about in the past. It's based on my programming. The other part of it that they continually say, so from that standpoint, I ain't doing the work of undoing the guilt or the thoughts. I can't do it from that viewpoint. What I can do is agree to have it done. And that has made all the difference relative to my sense of feeling guilt. And at one point they even said, it's like your job is like you look at yourself like you're a dusty room, and your job is to open the windows and keep all the windows open so the breeze of God can come in and clean it up. So my job is just to continue to agree to have the undoing continue. And I have to confess, you said something that said, I gotta confess, I ain't at peace all the time. This system gets knocked around. The thing is, I'm aware more than I ever have been before that Cindy's getting knocked around. I'm aware more than I've ever been before that Cindy in this moment is not at peace. And I'm aware that in the moment of feeling contracted or peace, I'm aware that there's believing attention being placed on something that's frightening, that feels scary. And I'm also aware more often that from that place, I can't undo it, but I can ask for the help to have it done, or I can ask for it to be done. And then every once in a while, I can feel the shift, which is really cool. But I have to confess, more than ever before, I don't know. Some friends and I have coined the Princess and the Pea philosophy for this awakening journey. So I know that these days I am more acutely sensitive to more subtle shifts of falling outside of the eye of the needle. Takes less to make me uncomfortable. Hey, David.
Hey, I don't know what happened to my hand. Do they time out? I don't think anyway, it doesn't matter. So I have a little story for this morning. It's kind of like it's similar to what we were talking about, because everything we're talking about is love or not love. And so I was really in the dumps today, and I didn't go to my meeting this morning, and I was supposed to give a presentation, a like kind of presentation this evening, and I canceled that, and I was just really bad in a bad place. But I'd already made arrangements to go over to Betty's daughter's today. And she has a handicap van that she no longer can use because she just can't do those things anymore, and get it ready to sell. So I went over there with Betty and jumped, got the car running and aired up the tires and did these things. And it was like, and I really needed to do that, provide love through service today. And I mean, that's what I did today. It was like, when I got done with that, I mean, there's no way I could feel any better than I was feeling this morning, because I may not be able to express love verbally, but I can do stuff. And that's how I can show love or do love. And that's what I did this morning in the best way I know how. And it was like, gosh, this is just great. Why don't I do more of these things and quit less brooding and whining and poor me-ing. So I go, well, that sounds like a plan. So that's what, so I'm going to look for stuff like that, because it was just, it's just like, it's really simple. Just quit whining and start loving, and that'll fix most problems. So thank you for listening, everybody. I'm done with my talk.
As you were listening, I immediately remembered it was Amy sent a link to a preview for a movie. Had you really not seen that movie before?
I'm sorry, I don't know what you're talking about.
Did you not send a link to the movie, same kind of difference as me, to me and maybe some others?
That was me.
Or was
That
that,
was
that
Michelle.
was Michelle? All right, somebody sent a link to same kind of difference as me. I thought it was Amy. It was you, Michelle.
No, I've never seen that movie. I must see it as soon as possible because it looks, yeah. In fact, I just, there's this homeless gentleman right around the corner from us who his name is Jim. And I just saw him this morning, and he said, he's so easy to love. He's just so easy to love. And, anyway, he said, thanks for being so good to me. And I'm like, so one day when it was snowing, I thought, this is nothing. I really should invite you into my home where it's warm. I mean, he's out there freezing. So, but if I may continue rambling here, I just want to piggyback on what David and Andrew and Cindy, what all of you said. I don't know if it's because we're doing the work or the play and meeting together that maybe I don't know. I'm so hard on myself. I'm like, what is the deal? Why do I keep forgetting and having these little temper tantrums when I'm supposed to be, I'm on this path? And so I go down that egoic self beating myself up. And the motherhood thing is a whole nother thing. I'm consistently second guessing, like, why can I not be more consistently peace filled and teach these children, how to be more peace filled by my example? And so I was on my knees in the middle of the night, and I thought, I'm not doing this right. And I was Monday morning quarterbacking, thinking about the past and really going down the rabbit hole. Like Andrew, you were talking about, I was really like, God, they're 18 and 15, and I just screwed up here. I screwed up there. And I'm on my knees, and I hear very, very, very clearly, I hear the Holy Spirit takes the past. And I know I'm quoting this from somewhere. The Holy Spirit takes the past, and only love remains. And that was so, I was like, oh, that if I could just keep remembering that, anyway, I really am grateful for all of you. I love you all very, very much. Thank you for letting me share.
Thank you. And I'm going to not take from the guides and from all of this work in response to what you just said, and then hand things over to Amy. Because one of the things that I've learned, and that again has helped me with this, is that when we make the decision to do this work, no stone gets what we're doing is lighting up the corners. So things that have felt okay, all of a sudden they're lit up. So the past comes up over and over and over again. It comes to the light, and again, when it shows up, we have a choice to either believe it back into our experience or do what you did. And some version of getting on our knees and saying, what's going on here? And being able to allow the part of us that knows the truth to inform the part of us that has forgotten. The thing is, the doubt, like if you were listening to Helen Hamilton, she's like, the last time I had doubt, last week, right? And that also really helped understand that it's not personal. Sometimes I just call it the cleanup. And also, even though it feels really personal, it feels like it's mine, saying it must not be because Helen Hamilton's still going through it or whatever, It's part of it. So glad that you're here. Now it's all yours, Amy.
Oh, thank you. Gosh, I didn't realize I was unmuted. It's coming to my awareness more and more and more that Indigo has the key. Everything is for me. Everything. And so resting in awareness, or not even rest, just the beingness of the moment, and trusting that everything, even lack of peace, is for me right now. And the lack of peace can just be given, can just be acknowledged and then given to the upper room. And because that's where all the change is made, and it's just waiting for you to give yourself to it. This new book, Resurrection by Selig, or The Guide, says that realization is experiential, right? It's not a token you chase, right? It's experiential. So that's why everything is for me now, right? And there's nothing in my eternal, indivisible holiness that I can't witness. And since I'm not the one, this says I must have decided wrongly. Well, who is the I that decided wrongly? That's a valid question to ask, right? It's just this little fragment of energy that thinks it's in charge, but it's nothing. The source brings all to all. Everything is everything. And so when we say, well, I must have decided wrongly because I'm not at peace, I'm not at peace because I think I'm in charge, right? Just let the not at peace be what it is. Let it rise up, let it touch you, and give it away. I give away my not at peace. I let my not at peace come up, and then I let it move through, right? It's not my not at peace. It feels like it's not at peace because I'm resisting it. So let it come up, let it move through. It's all experiential. And it also is, for me, it's good to remember that I'm not just, putting on the altar or sending to the upper room my own discomfort. All of us are at the point now where we are moving the discomfort of thousands of egoic energies, right? Because we've said yes, right? So don't let your ego tell you it's just your past that you're bringing up. It's the past of everything that we're bringing up and moving. And the more we get established in this realization, just like the Christ mind did, the more we will move, right? Yeah, we can hold that energy and we can move it out. So I don't know. Thank you. I hope I made sense, but that's where I am this morning. Thank you, Cindy.
Beautiful. Thank you. Hey, Barbie.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Well, something happened last week after reality check. I wanted to say something, but I didn't. Something just moved me, and then I went and sat with it at night and came to the realization that God is here and He's doing everything for me. I mean, I wanted a hug. Cindy, I was going to email you. I was going to text you, and I really, really needed a hug or whatever. But then within like the day, it got better. And today, I'm doing things that I normally don't do. I'm following whatever God tells me. So today I had my morning practice, and I got so energized. I was up, I was sitting on the mountain. Then I heard the bells and everything, and I got lifted higher and higher, and I was soaring through the clouds and the stars and whatever. And then I forgot to do my second practice, but I guess I was meant to do that because I took a walk with my husband this morning. And I seen somebody I haven't seen like in 2 months, and we talked for a while. Then we came back, and I had to go back to the store again, and it's like after I came back home, I was going to wash the floor because I'm getting into the spring cleaning mode. He's putting me in this mode, so I was ready to do the floors, but no, instead I went out for my walk again to the store, and I saw things differently. The trees look more alive than I've ever seen. I mean, it's like they've woken up from their hibernation, and I mean, I felt it. I mean, it was, I can't even put words to how I feel, but trees were speaking to me, and they're saying, I'm alive. I could feel them start blooming. And then in my back of the mind, it says, well, go for this walk because the floors can be it could be done anytime this week, and so I'm lucky I listened to him and I had the experience that I did. Thank you. Now
I
I'm
would say-
crying.
Well, I would suggest it's not luck. I would suggest it's your intentional choice that no matter what's going on in the world and in Barbie's world, you keep showing up to these meetings and to your practice and for your intention to know who you are. And as a result, it's working and the divine is able to speak to you in a way that you can hear clearer and clearer. So own that. It's a hum, hearing a hum and the birds. Should we just call Richard out or should we wait for him to raise his hand?
Morning, everyone. Happy Monday. I love you all and great shares. What I was experiencing while I listened to all your wonderful shares was the energy that we all are, call it unconditional love or God or whatever, or infinite awareness, whatever label you want to put on, is manifesting through each of us. And I love watching, like William was saying last week, I love watching how it manifests through each of us. We're all trying to express the same thing, but our conditioning changes how we manifest it. So we appear to be manifesting the same truth, only differently. And that's what all of us, you're all my teachers because I see how my reality can manifest through different conditioned beings in the illusion. And I love it. So it refines my path. And that's why I love you all, because you're helping me to wake up to my true identity and manifest and embody and manifest in the dream. But that being said, the back paragraph you quoted was reminding me of my first thought. When my third family left me, I figured I joined AA to deal with that issue. And in the early days of AA, I said to myself, my ego self, what do I want out of life? So I applied the 5 whys. And when I ended up at the 5th why this, why that, kind of a nitty kind of experience. I realized all I wanted was to experience peace of mind while living in my life. Regardless of what was going on in my life and my world, I wanted to be at peace. And the 12th step said, if I wanted to stay sober, I had to have a mind of serenity. I had to focus on serenity. When I got to step 11, I started looking for a new path spiritually or religiously. I went back to my old church of my own. I left it after a short while because I didn't fit there anymore. And then I found through a number of books, I came across A Course in Miracles. And the Course in Miracles, I pulled up a quote earlier I want to share with you. in the FIP version of the course. And chapter 13, section 2, it says, this course has explicitly stated that its goal for you is happiness and peace. And then beyond that, after studying the course, I realized I want to be a miracle worker. In other words, I want to be a vehicle where the miracles come through me naturally. And in order to do that, I have to be at peace. My mind is not at peace. I cannot be a miracle worker. So miracles cannot come through me. So if that was my goal now, it also resonated with my basic goal. I wanted to be at peace all the time. So I really, since the beginning, I focused my whole spiritual path on peace of mind. So when you read that paragraph at the end of chapter 5, it really resonated with me because I've been doing that for a number of years. The minute I'm not anything but at peace, I know I'm out of my right mind. And I get back in my right mind as soon as I can. Sometimes that's seconds, sometimes it's minutes, sometimes it's hours, sometimes it's days. So it depends on how great the healing needs to be made in my mind. So I love you all, and with that I'll pass.
I love us all too. Ah, back home she is. Who's next? Who's going to share next? And if anyone hasn't seen it, Same Kind of Different as Me is a movie highly worth watching. It is a true story. I do want to say prepare to cry though. Hey, Ron.
Excuse me, can you repeat that movie again?
Same Kind of Different as Me. Hey, Ron.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you may be in whatever time zone. And isn't it fun that time isn't real because we all decided yesterday, let's change the clocks and now that's real. According to who? So that's been fun to play with. Very much enjoyed listening. I love you all. I'm starting to recognize quotes from the course. So when the email came out, I was like, oh, I remember that one. And it's not like really an egoic thing. It's just because at the beginning, it just all felt like so much. And I remember that sense of being like, wow, am I ever? And yeah, here I sit, I'm ever. And I'm experiencing the Princess and the Pea. That's what I was thinking as I was driving. And then you said it, you know, noticing subtle differences in my space, you know, how I'm feeling. This weekend, I noticed several times that there was not a lot of thinking going on, which was fabulous. And that when there was no attachment, which was doubly fabulous. It could just be there, you know, and in that moment, when the rabbit hole started, I heard it from Michelle, you know, I do it too, right? All of a sudden I find myself thinking, and then I realize what I'm thinking about. And I think that's the moment that consciousness is like, woke me back up again, you know, and there isn't a time where I don't recognize it in some level anymore, even if it's after the fact, right? I can look back and go, wow, in that moment, that story brought up a bunch of guilt and shoulds, right? And so I can look at it after the fact like that and then remember I'm innocent. So the next time, maybe, I love the upper room, right? Because it reminds me of the holy instant. And it's all about making the change in the now moment. So when I recognize I'm doing that thing, and then I recognize I'm beating myself up for doing that thing, I can start right there. Right? That's where I can pause and be like, oh yeah, all of this is just chaos. And kind of tap into that still moment. I mean, it takes 3 seconds. You know, I like hand on heart because it just stops me in my tracks. And the ego mind, you know, tells me I don't have enough time for this. But the truth is I'm just pausing for a second. And I think in that remembering, and I call it a second, but if there's no time, then that remembering right there is so important, right? And then whatever practice that I happen to be the practice du jour or of the week or whatever, but really the go-to, and what I'm being reminded this morning is the simplicity of the pause, being aware of what's coming up, guilt, whatever, you know, beating myself up, and then taking that to the holy instant right there, you know, where the truth lays side by side. And what's the truth? I'm innocent. I'm watching a damn movie. I forgot. I'm so involved in the character right now and I'm beaten up on me. Right. So that's kind of what if you're going to call it a process or whatever, that I will to remember to do that as often as possible. Right. And then I whipped the book open when I got here just to kind of look over the thing again. And I have highlighted above, and this is for Michelle and I, for me too, for anyone. If you allow yourself to feel guilty, you will reinforce the error rather than it being undone. And you said it, Michelle, you heard that Holy Spirit undoing, correct, whatever you say, that, you know what I mean? And so it's there and it's calling me all the time. You know, it's just to allow the chaos to die down for a second so I can sink into the now, because it's in that now is where I'm finding it's being undone, right? I can look at it from the past and be like, oh yeah, all that stuff was in play. And I can vow not to let that happen again, but it's gonna happen again. And so when it happens again, may I please remember as often as whatever would have it possible, because every time it's just poking holes, right? Poking holes in that red cup. So thank you for allowing me to share. I love you all. I have 2 really stupid examples of where I had to do that this weekend, but it's an after the fact. So thank you for centering me in the proceed from here. You know, that's the past. Who cares? Thank
So
you.
a couple quick things. One, if you saw me laughing when Rana started to share, I was staying present, but there is a cat, my daughter's cat, in this apartment currently having the zoomies. And at that moment, he was jumping on my knee and then running to the further corner of the apartment and coming back again. The second thing is when we say The Princess and the Pea, does everybody have a good sense of what we're talking about? No. So really what the fairy tale is that the queen, before she gave this woman to her son, needed to know if the woman was of pure spirit, was really a princess. And so the princess was put to sleep on like 20 mattresses. And at the very bottom of the mattress, the queen put a tiny little pea. And the princess had a horrible night's sleep because she was able to feel the pressure from that pea. And somehow, some friends and I, years ago, we realized that this practice was like that. In the beginning of the practice, we just accepted the fear and the bullshit, and this is the way life was. And as that started to peel away, we were no longer able to accept the things that we had accepted before. And it became a lot easier. We got uncomfortable, sometimes excruciatingly uncomfortable with just being a little out of center. And I've coined it the Princess and the Pea. It's like needing to stay in as soon as I'm starting to believe the ego instead of the path, it gets really uncomfortable. Then there was a third thing, and I don't now remember. There was a third thing that I wanted to say while I was listening to you. I don't remember what it was. Guess it wasn't important. Not as important as whatever Amy's going to say. So it's all yours, Amy.
This is really obvious, but it just came to me sort of strongly, was that we can sit here and we can be by ourselves and we can have these realizations, and we can give up to the upper room, to the Holy Spirit, to our true nature, whatever. And so we can turn the page in our own mind and into the new becoming. But family gives us this great gift because they don't turn the page with us, and they keep bringing our old self back to us over and over and over again, reminding us, oh, you used to be this way, you used to be that way. And what a gift that is, because it allows us in each moment that happens to make the choice again to remember what we truly are and to react in a different way. So I just, I have issues with my sisters, my sister Nancy, and that just came up with me, and I thought I would share it.
And you reminds me of the third kind of thing I wanted to say, which was not everybody may know what is meant by the upper room. So the upper room, for those who are interested, is just the terminology that the guides use to indicate a frequency without fear. So it's not a place separate from where we are. It's who we are without the vibration of fear or the octave or the tone or the frequency. So that's just it. It's where you abide when there's no fear.
Yeah, and the way that they're describing this, I don't know, maybe I'm misinterpreting it, but I love it in this book, is the upper room is a place where you can go and just give all your crap to. It is completely open to receive anything that you want to give it without any fear. So it's like there's no guilt, there's no recrimination, it's asking you to drop off whatever you need to drop off right there.
It's like a sonicator.
It
Right.
is. Yeah, it just evaporates. If you think of your guilt as wetness, it just evaporates it. And the freedom that comes from truly embodying guiltlessness. Like, you could have done anything, but in the moment that you give it up, you're free. And you can go back, as Rhonda said so beautifully, you can go back and do that over and over and over again. There's no end to it. And the freedom that brings over time is just so, and again, it's experiential. You don't know it until you do it.
Hey, David.
I was just thinking about the upper room. I think, isn't the upper room where the Last Supper was, and Jesus and the disciples went up there because it was a safe place to be? I think that's what it was. But anyway, what I want to talk about is not another disciple of mine, which is Stephen King, or I'm a disciple of his. That's more like it. But when several of his stories, when people were suppressing things, they put them in the file cabinet and locked the doors of the file cabinet. And that's, yeah, I'm sure that's what I did. I just would go along in this, layer of depression, but not want to think about anything because I'd suppressed all those things, but they were still in there. And I could see the file cabinet, but I didn't open the doors. And then when I start to wake up, the file cabinet, the doors are just busting open, and everything's falling out, so then you have to deal with the stuff. I have to deal with the stuff that I've suppressed all my life. And so, oh my God, look at that. Oh, what a horrible thing. And, that happened when I was 5, and I'm still carrying it around. It's still in the cabinet, and I'm just still in the A's. Just think, I got a long way to go. I got to go through the whole damn alphabet, and I'm still in the A's working on this shit. But I'm going to keep working at it because I have no choice, because now it's all out there. So I have to deal with stuff. So I know it's not a eloquent analogy that Richard does, but it's the best I can do because it's what's real. So thank you for listening.
I'll let Richard share, and then if there's a minute, I'm going to tell you a story about what supposedly happened in my history around that, the sorting and the going through everything. Hey, Richard.
When I heard Paul talk about the upper room, what came to mind for me was the Course in Miracles that talked about rising above the battleground. And that's what I think. And then once you're above the battleground, you can get in the right mind and sink into the stillness of what you really are. And from that place, you can have you dump everything in your mind that's less than peace or less than love, and wait and then patiently for guidance. And you will get the guidance one way or another. So that's how I equated the upper room and the Course vernacular.
See, my mind said you were going to start talking about our buddy Dr. Hawkins and the frequency of love and above. So much for how often I'm misperceiving. Hey, Sandra.
Well, I comment on that Sandra before you talk. All right. I've come to believe that the illusion, the reason we're in the illusion at this density, as human beings, mind bodies, whatever you want to call it, is we're working on the evolution of the human race from physical expression of self, the separate self, to a non-physical non-physical experience of manifesting non-physically as spirits before we get to the real world. So, and the Course is vernacular. So, Hawkins gave us an idea that in order to evolve as a human race, we have to raise our consciousness. That's what evolution is about. So the spiritual teachings of the Course and all other spiritual teachings are allowing us to raise our consciousness to a level where we're moving the evolution of the human race from a physical experience to a non-physical experience. And that's what motivates me to wake up.
Beautiful. Thank you. Sandra.
Hi, everybody. Just sitting here, marinating in the beauty of us. And us collectively and us individually, as I think Andrew said it or Richard said it, the individual personalities and the beauty of each person, and hearing these words. And so many things have landed on my heart, and I can't even remember them all. But one thing that comes up is in this chapter, this section, and the song. In this chapter, it actually says, the time is now. The time is right now, in this moment. No delay. And I kept waiting for, I will get there. I will get there. And I am not doing that anymore. I am here now. And the other thing is, in the paragraph that I think Andrew referenced, 8, it starts out with decisions cannot, and cannot is emphasized, cannot be difficult. And so many times in my egoic frame of mind, I'm like, I can't decide. Just tell me what to do. And then I realized, reading this, that's a decision. I decided not to decide. All these are choices in a way, and probably choice and decision isn't the right word, but it's happening experientially, as Amy said. It's just happening. And Source is providing this experience that somehow I agreed to, and I'm having it right now. And therefore, once I realize that, oh, I can kind of just relax into the flow of life and say, oh, I get to feel that now. Okay, so I'm experiencing a little guilt. Look at that. I think I was responsible for something. I don't know, but it just changes everything. It changes everything. It's seeing with different eyes. It's experiencing with a different, I don't know, a different vibration, maybe that's the word. But decisions cannot be difficult. And there's this alignment with Source. There's like a power surge, a power surge of, I am unlimited. I'm not stuck in that. I'm not stuck in that. I'm not at peace because I made the decision. I'm not a victim of circumstances or a victim of what's happening anymore. I am completely unlimited. I am whole. I am free. I'm amazing. I'm this amazing Source. And I can even start laughing at the choices I have made. Look at that. What was she trying to do there? It was, I mean, all I can say is wow. Wow. Right now, not tomorrow, not this afternoon, I am totally complete and have the opportunity to be here with you. Thank you. I love you. I love you.